Alright guys, let's go with the changes for Team Ash, starting with Ash himself. So first up, his Farsi is now going to be special cancelable. And this is really good for Ash players for a couple of reasons. So first is that most Ash players would do some sort of string like this on block into sweep into fireball, and you can easily beat that out by just hopping over and making them eat shit. Now you have to watch out for Farsi, which hits you out of that air or hop, and if they special cancel into the fireball, now you're going to be locked down by that projectile. For Ash players, this is going to be really good because now you have this new block string here, and you kind of lock them down here because this string is positive on block. And if you have good hit confirms, you could probably cancel this into something more practical like that. Now this is really good because Farsi was previously kind of useless. It whiffed on crouching characters. Far-D just did a better job at anti-air, anti-hop, also hit crouching characters. So basically Farsi is just going to be useful now. Next up, Close D, reduce knockback distance on hit, so maybe combos like this are going to be more consistent. And they also reduce the attack startup from 4 to 6 frames. I think that's a typo. That should say increase startup from 4 to 6 frames, or reduce attack startup from 6 to 4 frames. Either way, not that big of a deal. That just means it's going to start up a little bit slower or faster. Next up, Crouching A is going to have reduced attack startup from 5 to 4 frames. So this has big combo implications because Ash is able to do something like this. Previously, if you combo without bar, your only option was just flash kick, and that's a link. That's not a special cancel. You have enough time to charge the flash kick and it will connect. And that's pretty much the only thing you could do. Unless you had bar, and you could special cancel the command kick into this. But it wasn't special cancelable. But now you can link a jab into this, which is special cancelable, and you could get that kind of combo. So 274 off of lights, really good stuff because that's pretty high damage right there. So this opens up a lot of combo opportunities for Ash, and honestly probably one of the best buffs for him. Next up, Crouching D now drops lower to the ground part way through the attack. So this is just kind of a better low profile basically. You could probably duck under certain moves. Duck under fireballs, and it's whiff cancelable too, so you can probably duck under something and just kind of do some sort of clever punish there. So good stuff. Next up, Jumping A is going to be more active by a couple frames, so you could throw this out pretty early on the way up, on the way down, and it will still connect. Now you could still press it too early and it's going to whiff though, so just be mindful of that. But just know that now you could kind of connect more easily as an air to ground. Next up, Jumping D is going to have expanded hitbox backwards, so basically it's going to cross up more consistently now. Yeah, that's a really good cross up hitbox. Now again, only on jump and hyper jump versions. It does not count for hop versions. So if I test this out and try to cross out as a hop, yeah, it's not going to cross up as well. Alright, next up. Vento. So the C version of his projectile is now gonna have a level 2 priority upon firing. So basically, he's trying to set this up. A fireball. Okay. So basically, it's gonna be treated as an EX projectile, where it's gonna beat out any regular projectile, and it's gonna cancel out with EX projectile. So let me test this out. Did that too late. There you go. So the 2 EX projectiles, so it beat out the first one, or sorry, it canceled out the first one. So yep, pretty much the same as the EX projectile. So this is really good for Ash because now his zoning game is just going to be that much stronger. Alright, next up, let's see, the flash kick. They're going to expand the hitbox in the first hit. Okay, that's good because sometimes you would do 1-2 mini shorts, combo into the D version of this flash kick, and it would whiff because the opponent is too far. Now they're going to make it so that this combos more consistently. And next up, they're going to greatly reduce the landing recovery when it doesn't hit. So this is going to be both for the hard version and EX version. So if you whiff with this and I hold up, that's a lot of recovery time. Same thing with the EX version. So yep. They're just going to make it more punishable on whiff, which should be the case. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now the good thing I like about this is that they left the light version alone because Ash has this setup right here. So that didn't combo, but basically the landing recovery of this is untouched, so he could do some sort of sick setup like that. and I'm glad they didn't take that away. You know, they're touching only the right stuff and leaving the other stuff alone. And it makes sense because the light version doesn't have as much invincibility as the C and EX version anyway. Next up, EX Genie is going to have expanded hitbox backward and forward for opponents during hit state. So during combos, this is going to land more consistently, which I didn't realize was an issue because as far as I know, this combo pretty consistently mid-screen and full screen. Yeah. Next up, Germinal Capri. So the CD version of this is going to have reduced knockback distance on hit. On block, to make it more punishable. And that makes sense. I mean, because this move is kind of a launcher kind of move. So if you block it, you should be punished for it. That makes sense. They're going to do the same thing with the EX version. So on block. So this is the D version. Reduced pushback. So they're going to get a close heavy. Same thing with the EX version, although it's a little bit further, so maybe Ash could still get a crouching C out of it. So a little less punishable than the D version, but still possible. And again, that makes a lot of sense because the EX version is even more of a juggle move than the D version. So if you block it, you should get punished for it. Next up, the Flash Kick Super, they're going to expand the hitbox forward on the first hit. So basically, this is just going to land more consistently in combos. And then lastly, Sans Culotte, going to have expanded hitbox forward. Alright, still not close enough, still not expanded enough to combo from that. But let's see here. And still not close enough for that. So they could probably still expand the hitbox a little bit more. But basically, I guess this is more meant for certain combos where it didn't combo before. So, good stuff. Minor buff for Ash. But yeah, that's it. Let's move on to Elizabeth. Alright, so Elizabeth doesn't have any major changes, but let's go through them. So, first up, Close C and Far B. Close B and Far B are going to be both cancelable into command normals. Now, this doesn't really make it a combo, right? It's still not a true combo. But it's more of a frame trap opportunity. So if you notice opponents are pressing buttons in between a lot, you can kind of tag them with this gap in between those buttons and, you know, hit them with a full combo off of that. So kind of really minor stuff, not really a big deal. Crouching A, they got to reduce attack stutter from 5 to 4 frames. That's kind of a universal buff across the board where light normals are just going to be faster as they should. Crouching D is going to be 2 frames faster. That makes a lot of sense for Elizabeth because her crouching D is one of the shortest reaching sweeps in the game, so it makes sense that it should be faster. Jumping C, they're going to increase attack frames from 3 to 6 frames, so this is going to be more active on the way down basically. Now, not that much active, right? Yeah, you still kind of have to press it close to hitting the ground, but it's still better than what it was before. Next up, the command normal cancel version is going to start up 1 frame faster. Now, this doesn't really open up any new combo opportunities. I guess it just makes this link more consistent. I didn't realize that was an issue. But again, no new combos, right? Off of lights, you still can't combo off of it from lights. So again, nothing major here. Next up, EX version of this move here, the Coupe de Vent. They're going to increase overall frames by 6 when this doesn't hit, which means it recovers longer, and reduce knockback distance on block. So basically, the whole purpose of this change is that this move is now going to be just way more punishable. And that's something they're doing, you know, not just to Elizabeth, but for every character. Every EX move that juggles on hit, it should be punishable on block. And, you know, they're going to make that by recovering longer and ending up closer to the opponent. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. I don't really see it as a nerf. It's more like, hey, we're going to make it so that you don't get away with this more as often as you should be. Next up, EX Illusion. So this is going to have an increased invulnerability duration when triggered. I don't understand that because when you trigger this, you're behind the opponent. So, I mean, there's really nothing for you to get hit by. So I don't think you need the increased invulnerability. It doesn't make any sense. Unless there's something I'm missing here. Feel free to correct me, but I don't understand that change. Next up, Grail, or however I cannot pronounce this move. They're going to reduce the upper side hitbox. I'm guessing that this used to have a ridiculous anti-air. It kind of still does, right? Yeah, you can still hit aerial opponents. I guess, like, maybe more on top of you, so they're just going to nerf the upper side hitbox of that. Makes sense. Next up, Untitled Chapter. So this is going to have increased invulnerability duration when triggered. I don't understand that because when you trigger this, you're behind the opponent. So I don't think you need the increased invulnerability. It doesn't make any sense. Unless there's something I'm missing here. Feel free to correct me, but I don't understand that change. They're gonna increase overall frames by 2, so this is gonna recover a little bit slower. And then they're gonna increase the knockback distance on block. So this last change is actually really good, because if this is a pretty common, block string for Elizabeth players. You end it into that, and you're really negative, but you're so far away they're not gonna get a punish off of you. And if you're facing a grapple character, you don't have to worry about the fear of them running up and doing a one-frame command grab. So pretty good for Elizabeth, because now you can actually sort of set up some other pressure, like maybe a far D if they try to run in on you. Now the C version, on the other hand, is now going to reduce knockback distance on block. So if the opponent sees that you're trying to do an overhead on them, they're going to be able to punish you more better because you're closer to them. So they're going to get a close heavy off of you. And then the EX version of this, they're going to nerf the damage from 120 to 80. So this is also an overhead. It's just a faster version, and it used to do 120, which is kind of a lot for something that could potentially close out the round. So they're going to nerf that damage from 120 to 80, and that's something they're doing with Terry's EX crack shoot and B Janet's EX overhead as well. So she's not the only character that's suffering this nerf. I think that makes sense. Again, it's a move that closes out the round, so it's not really a big deal. This doesn't really add anything in combos. You don't really use it other than an instant overhead. Next up, the Aurora. So this move here, the Reflector. So they're going to increase overall frames on block. So if you, for whatever reason, you're doing this on block, now it's going to be even more punishable. They're going to reduce the knockback distance on block, so they end up a little bit closer. That's not too bad. If you're doing it in a string, you're still kind of far away. And they're going to increase overall frames by 10. So if you're not hitting them on block, if you're just throwing this out, then it's going to be more whiff punishable. That makes a lot of sense. It's something that's high damage. It reflects projectiles, and it stops people from advancing on you because of the wall, and it's also an anti-air. So if you're able to just spam this move, it would make the move a little bit imbalanced. So it makes sense. The last change is something they're doing universally to all projectiles, is that the light version will not reflect projectile, it only nullifies them, and the heavy version nullifies projectiles. Again, I don't understand the purpose of this, because in terms of damage, in terms of combability, in terms of startup, in terms of recovery, the light and heavy versions of all reflectors are pretty much the same. And so I'm not sure why there's a purpose of doing one that reflects and one that doesn't reflect. If you're using a reflector, you always want to reflect. It's not like Yamazaki's where you absorb a fireball, you can fire it out later, right? So really don't understand that change from SNK when it comes to reflectors. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Next up, Grand Rafale Super, they expanded the push box upwards. I'm not sure what the purpose of this is, because you could still do that combo. That doesn't change. I think they should make it the push box even higher, because I'm not able to cancel into the climax here because it's gonna whiff, right? Even in the corner this whiffs. So SNK, I think you need to expand the push box even more higher so that the climax can actually connect here, because it's still a problem. So something that SNK could still work on. But yeah, that's really it for Elizabeth. Really nothing much. Some small things here and there, but nothing that's going to change her game completely. So let's move on to Kukri. Alright, last up we got Kukri, and he's a sad victim on this balance patch. It's honestly really fucked up what they did to him, because they talk about nerfs to Terry, Vanessa, Ralph, and honestly Kukri got nerfed harder than those three ever did. And don't get me wrong, he is a really good character. You could make the argument he deserves some of these nerfs, but collectively, I think it's a little bit going too far. So let's go over how fucked up these are. It's funny I say that, because the first change is actually a buff. So Far D now travels further, and if you don't know, this is an annoying low hitting special that's also special cancelable. So now Kukri players are going to take better advantage of this move. The next one though is a nerf, and it's a pretty big one. So this is one of the best blowbacks in the games, or at least it used to be, because the range for this move was just so good. Above him, in front of him, he travels forward. So they're going to nerf several things. First of all, the hitbox above him is going to be decreased and forward, and they're going to reduce the distance traveled, so a lot less range than what it used to have. And on top of that, they're going to add a hurt box on his arms, so it's going to be more hittable out of this move. Next up, Fusakan, reduce overall frames by 6. So that's the cancel version of his command normal. I don't really think that's really a big deal, because Yeah, he could still get a late special cancel off of this, so I don't think this changes too much about him. Next up, his projectile. Let's see if I could demonstrate this. So they're going to reduce the upper side hitbox of this move, and the reason they're doing that is because this move here, when you look at this, it looks like Iori's or Terry's grounded projectiles, and you think you could hop over it, right? And you actually couldn't before. You actually got hit out of the air, surprisingly. But now they're going to make it so that now that the hitbox of this has been reduced, you can actually move over it like you would a grounded projectile. I'm just timing this pretty bad because I'm landing on it instead of jumping over this. But now you could just hop over it normally, as you should be able to. Now the trade-off is that they're going to reduce the flying distance of the, increase the flying distance of the projectile so that it has more range. Next up, Nessa Jin. So on block, the light version of this projectile is typically plus, and that's how it is with some other projectiles in the game. Now they're gonna make it so that you're less plus on block, but from this move. Now you're still plus, but you know it's just gonna be 2 frames less. Next up, Nessus and Pooh. Now this is gonna be considered on the ground. So this move, he used to be considered off the ground. So if you were to hit him off, if you were to whiff this and you neutral jumped it, now he's going to stay on the ground. There's going to be no air reset and you can get a full combo off of this. The other implication, I don't know if I can recreate this, but you used to be able to meaty an opponent on wake up using this move. And you know, you'll be plus on block if you meatied very well on it. Now he's going to be considered on the ground, so you can wake up tech out of this move. So that setup is going to be less I would say it's going to be harder to pull off on the opponent. Like maybe you would have to do it from this distance now. But either way, it's going to be a somewhat of a loss for Kukri. Now the D version of this move is going to be more punishable. So they're going to end up right close to your face because they reduce the knockback distance of this move so that the opponent is really close to you and could get a heavy normal on block. Let's see, next one, the light version is also going to have reduced knockback duration by 2 frames when blocking. So he's going to be, you know, still negative. He's already negative before, but not really big of a deal because the light version of this move wasn't punishable. But the big nerf to this move is on the EX version. So first of all, this used to do 145 damage. Now it's only going to do 105 damage. And on top of that, they're going to increase the combo scaling value. So now this does a lot less damage in full combos. So let me demonstrate this. Messed that one up. So that does 372. Let's do this. Let's try this move here. And that does 413. Yeah, so this combo right here, the EX Nessa Senpu, it's his main go-to combo. You see it in every combo for Kukri, and you know, you pretty much can't avoid using that as part of your combo. And now it's going to be nerfed, so his damage potential overall across the board is just going to be nerfed for Kukri. Pretty unfortunate. I think they could have gotten away with just nerfing the damage of this move here because you're using it in every combo. I don't think you need to double the nerf by also decreasing the combo scaling. It's a little bit too much. Let's see, more nerfs incoming. So the light version of this move used to do a hard knockdown. Now it doesn't. It's just kind of weird. And on top of that, they're going to increase the recovery by 4 frames. So if they manage to block it, you're actually going to be even more punishable. So it's a little bit too much. They should have just changed one or the other, but not both. Now, as some sort of trade-off here, the D version of this is going to now be invulnerable to projectiles during the attack. I think this is not a really good buff because look at this, right? You're using this in the air, and you're going to dodge a projectile anyways because you're pretty much going over it. So doesn't really make any sense to me to add this buff because what kind of projectile are you going to get hit by off of this? Doesn't make any sense. Now the EX version of this actually is going to have some sort of buff here, so they're going to increase the but actually some nerfs. So this used to do 120 damage, now it's only going to do 100. They also changed the trajectory of this move so that it's going to be similar to the light version where he stays in place. And the plus side though is that it's going to be plus on block because they decreased the landing recovery by 8 frames. So he's actually if you do it fast enough, you actually, you know, more plus on block. You see the double plus sign there. So again, not really significant of a buff because you do have to use a bar for that. So I think it's kind of like a meaningless. It doesn't really make up for the loss that he has so far. Next up, his sand clones. So they're gonna remove the projectile startup on protection. So on reversal, if someone tries to beat you with a projectile, you could get away with just using the sand clone and getting away from that projectile. Now you won't be able to. And on top of that, though, they're gonna take away the hitbox when you get hit. So if you're not aware, Kukri could throw out this clone, and once it dissipates, there's a hitbox on the opponent. Now, a common setup for the opponent would be do something like this. So, for example, if on your wake up they do this and you hit them, but you're still gonna get hit by the sand clone. So they're gonna recover from your attack, and then the sand clone will hit you. So then they're basically gonna get a free combo off of you pressing buttons. But now you can hit them out of that clone. Sorry, not hit them out of that clone, but once you hit them, the clone won't hit you anymore. They're gonna take away that property. Once you hit Kukri, the clones will not do anything to you. So that gets rid of a, you know, common setup by Kukri. And it's pretty big because that setup for him is going to be lost forever. So really huge nerf for Kukri players right there. Next, Nessa Chugecki. So this move here, they're going to change the projectile position. They're going to increase the damage from 65 to 80, and now it's going to OTG. So combos like this are going to be possible now. Let's see here. So yeah, as sort of a way to kind of make amends for all the nerfs, they're going to make that OTG, and now it's going to be kind of your part of your BNB. It's kind of good, I guess. Probably something they should have done in the first place. But there you go. Somewhat of good news for Kukri players. Next up, Nessa Goku Totsuha. What's that? Is that his punch super? So they're going to increase invulnerability duration here. Let's see. Does that work on Wake Up? And it doesn't work on Wake Up. I don't think that's a big deal because that's a super. Next one, decrease minimum damage from 330 to 245 for his other super. Actually no, that's his climax. Oof, that's big. So let me see if I can demonstrate this here. 452. So basically, off of a climax or supers in general, you get a guaranteed number of damage no matter how long the combo is. And for the climax, they're gonna reduce that from 330 to 245, so almost 100-point damage difference in climax combos. So they already nerfed the damage for a lot of the stuff. Now they're gonna nerf it even further in bigger combos. So pretty big for Kukri. You know, it's unfortunate. Fortunately, he still has a lot of the stuff, like functionality wise. He's still got the same combos. It's just now you're gonna have to do probably different combos using the sand thing. And you know, you're just gonna live with this combo doing a lot less damage than what it used to. So pretty unfortunate for Kukri players, but at least the changes for Elizabeth and Ash seem to make more sense. But I mean, overall though, he's still a really good character. He's still gonna be really solid. You just gonna have to work a little bit harder